Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of A Cup of Joe. My name is Joe Escobedo, and with me on the show today is Ankash Sagar. Ankash, thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Joe. Thanks for calling.
So Ankash is the Senior Director of APAC Marketing for Automation Anywhere, and we have a really exciting show. I know I always say that, but I'm really pumped up for today's because we're kickstarting our revenue and retention series where we talk about ways in which you can drive revenue and keep some of your best clients. In addition to kind of the way the strategy has shifted, we also discussed last time about how the messaging and how your pitch has shifted as well. So you want to share more about that?
Yep, sure, definitely. So if you look at right now, there are two type of customers people have, like new businesses and the existing business. Obviously, when people are looking for the new business, it has come a little bit down because the sales cycle has been increased, because the customer decisions has been a little bit delayed due to the organizational push. So obviously, your new business will take some time to get flourish. Earlier, maybe the sales cycle was 6 months. Now it has become 9 months. So from that perspective, definitely the messaging will change. And what will be the messaging? So far, companies might be pushing their products, pushing their solutions to the customer. But now customers are looking to check those challenges which are current challenges right now. And in those current challenges, customers always want that, okay, what is it for me? So suppose if I am selling a software so far on maybe agility or maybe something on transformation side, suddenly that same software has other benefit of cost cutting or cost benefit, because suddenly the company's target is changed. Okay, just hold all the transformational projects and save some cost. So suddenly the messaging will change, and the messaging should be more apt for the COVID scenario. So I'll give you simple examples. Like in this scenario right now, the hospitals are struggling, or the insurance companies are struggling, because so much of data is inflowing into their database. And but they have limited number of people. Even some of the people have even took some leave due to COVID, so they have less number of people also. So how the companies can take help to processing these type of hospital claims when they have less people? So suddenly, I'll take example of Automation Anywhere. The same bot which was helping the insurance companies for the quality check or the accuracy in past, now also helping to transaction more volumes of claims with the less number of people and more number of bots. So the product is same, but the positioning has changed. So companies have to rethink their strategy in terms of how they can reposition themselves in terms of their right messaging to the right persona. And it should not be generic. It should be very, very specific to the particular challenge. Because right now, time is money. And if you're not able to track or help the customer at the right time, you've just lost the chance. And there are many, many examples right now in the industry where they are literally hitting the right set of customers, right set of personas with the right messaging, because this time is very critical for every company to sustain the business. Forget about growing a lot. They want to sustain the business. And to sustain the business, obviously, they have different challenges, and companies have to think about their strategy, that how they can attack the sustaining the business model or sustainability rather than growing with an exponential stage.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I remember last time we were talking about, you mentioned really breaking down the messaging into different types. So you mentioned by vertical, by persona, by geography, and by functional departments. I think it's a good way, like you said, to make it very much relevant. Otherwise, what I see a lot of particularly tech companies do is go very, very broad and very, very generic. What you're saying is that doesn't even work really right now because people want to know, why is it relevant to me? Because there's an urgency factor that maybe wasn't in there previously.
Exactly. So actually, this is the new wave right now, because you have to think that what you are selling right now maybe means to you, but doesn't mean to the another side of the person on the side of the table. And when you sell to a company, you sell to a particular department or particular function. But there is a strategy, something called go wide and go deep.
Mm.
So go wide is basically like you can pick up one function, do some proof of concept there or pilots there, and then cover multiple functions around it. So for example, if I'm doing a pilot with CFO function and the CFO agrees on that and the pilot goes very successful, immediately you should think about pilots in CIO, CHRO, COO functions. So this is basically a go wide, so that you can run multiple projects in these particular departments. Another strategy is go deep. So go deep, you pick up the CFO function and go deep into that function up to every type of processes, how much you can try to help via software. And you literally go to a level where you're talking to an account payables person or accounts receivable person. But what is happening in this type of strategy that you are literally losing time, or maybe you're giving a gate to the competition to talk to the COO and CHRO or CIOs. So go deep works well when you are into that category where no one is your competition and you are into a very niche type of segment. But when you want to do something enterprise level effectiveness, you should go with go wide. And go wide, you should very much clear how your product helps a CIO versus how your product helps a CHRO or COO or CFO or CPO. There are many functions within a company. And your software can help each and every one in terms of their basic needs, their basic day-to-day operations. So that's why the companies to think of that, whether it's go wide or go deep.
Yeah, no, I love the go wide, go deep analogy. I think it's great. And like I said, you said mostly focusing on the go wide deep, you're looking for enterprise sales. I guess the challenge therein lies is you talked about, different, people have different KPIs or different priorities. You mentioned CEO, CFO, CMO, and et cetera. How do you actually create something, whether it's a new business pitch or a solution that really applies across those different ones? Because like you said, you're going to have multiple stakeholders with multiple challenges. How do you actually deal with that?
Great question, great question. And most of the companies struggle at this actually. And that's why you need to actually do a lot of things. I'll tell you something very small thing, and it's a very basic step. Talk to your salespeople first. Check out all the deals of last 2 years and analyze them. Who was the decision maker there? What happened with the deal? If we lost it or if we won that deal? And your salespeople are those guys who are talking to customers day in and day out. And there has to be proper sales workshop should happen in every region, because the challenge of a CIO in Benelux or Europe will be different from Australia. So there has to be some regional groups need to be formed. And those regional groups will understand from sales. Because from a marketing, always think that your customer is sales. If sales is not able to sell the product or software or hardware, then marketing needs to really think about their strategy. So we have to be very much totally in hand with sales guys and behave like their extended arm to understand their pain points. So that is one area which they can look at it. They talk to sales, get their feedback, look at all the deals of last 2 years, why we won, why we lost, who was the decision maker, and then create the proper playbook about it. Second is talk to the analysts, because the analysts, like I know it is somewhat a little bit costly side also, but trust me, it really helps, because Forrester, Gartner, IDC, Everest, OVM, HFS, these are really the guys who are talking to customers on a daily basis. And they really help you to position your product, because they know the customer pain points and they know your product also. So talk to the analysts. Then there has to be a team, especially within the product, within the market team, called Compintel, competitive intelligence team. And that team should also understand what your competition is trying to sell and where are they selling. Because trust me, I have found out that a lot of places your competition has also a good info which you can reuse. And you can really think about it. Oh, why I had not thought about it. And maybe you can literally think better than them. But always think that your competition, do not disrespect your competition. Because at the end of the day, they are also humans. They're also playing the same game. So take the information from them too. And I think the last, and which is I think the most critical part, is talk to your partners. Who is selling your product in the markets? For example, whether it is system integrator whose partners are the product companies or the vice versa. So talk to your partners. Whom are they talking to? Whom are they selling to? And learn from that, how are they selling? Because sometimes if you go to deep dive into, for example, Southeast Asia, if you go to Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, every partner is different. And the way they are selling to those people also is very different versus Korea, China, Hong Kong. And these local partners have deep inroads in the market from many years, and they know how to sell. So sometimes even I have come across so many multiple experiences when partner says, okay, I think your product can fit into this area also, which we never thought, and which they are selling from last 6 months. So to understand the pulse of the market and to craft your messaging, you should talk to sales, you should talk to analysts, you should talk to your comp and tell people, and you should talk to partners, roughly at a broader side.
Those are really good points, and I absolutely love that. I think one thing that a lot of tech companies forget, and we work with a lot of different tech companies, and we look at kind of what's driving the most revenue. And in some cases, it's 60 to 80% is coming through what they call channel partners, like you just mentioned. So it's the resellers, distributors. And we do a lot of work in terms of bridging the gap, because once again, that's another thing that we see is a gap within the market currently is, the brand is selling and marketing in one way, but the salespeople on the channel side are coming up from a completely different point of view or have different messaging or different kind of strategies. So really aligning the two. And I think it goes back to what you're saying, asking them questions, finding out their insights, but also asking, how can you better support them, I think is something that I'd love to see a lot more tech companies do, because like you said, it helps bridge that gap. If they're enabled, they're empowered, then obviously it's gonna, in the back end, it's gonna help, the brand's revenue and retention as well.
Exactly, exactly. And marketing job should not end at a level when you give the meeting to the salesperson or when the opportunity comes, because there has to be weekly or sometimes alternate day connect to the sales guys, that how as a marketer you can accelerate the pipeline, you can help them to close the more deals, and that's where the revenue retention comes and the cross sell and upsell comes. And marketing should come with a lot of unique ways. For example, I remember I used to do a lot of we used to call them brown bag sessions,
Mm.
where we used to call all the customers and we used to actually help those customers or prospects who are into daily stage with us, and
Mm.
let them interact with our existing customers. So it's a proper platform which you call user groups or
Mm.
sessions, where people can interact with each other, and there's no selling of automation anywhere or any other company, even whenever I used to do in other Wipro or anywhere else. But that platform will help the customers to connect by themselves, and what the customer needs to hear the stories, what the other people are doing in the market. So when a bank is talking to another bank, that will help rather than I am telling to the bank what they should do.
Yeah, I love that. And I've seen that in different tech companies, but I think it goes back to education. One thing I'd love to get your thoughts on is when you're running those sessions, do you do it by industry, by function? The reason I ask is that we've run them previously with different organizations, and we found like, if you're running with an industry, so if there's competitors in the room, then there's usually some apprehension in terms of sharing information. But I don't know how you guys have run that in the past by different functions, geographies, or a different way.
So what you have to try, the competition always like a little bit hesitant to share.
Yeah.
But I think the best way is that to share that when you share cross geography. So if a US bank is sharing their thought process, because the processes doesn't vary much.
Yeah.
The proper financial processes or any operational processes, supply chain, HR, payroll, all these things are pretty standard. Maybe 80% are same, 20% are customized.
Mm.
So when these people talk to a guy, for example, US is talking to a guy in Australia, there's no threat.
Mm.
A US bank is talking to a Southeastern bank, there's no threat. An Indian bank is talking to someone in Malaysia
Mm.
or somewhere in Korea. Because at the end of the day, you have to understand that in which market are they catering to.
Yeah.
If there's no overlap in terms of the market, everyone is fine to share the views, because as an individual, a banker always wants to make better connects into other geographies also to learn from them.
Mm.
Because if you see any growing market, a developed market versus a developing country, the developed market has a lot of different type of technologies versus a developing country what has.
Mm.
And but nowadays, if you see a lot of innovation which is coming from Asia, which Western countries never thought of, and so they learn from this market too. So it's a mutual, I would say, coordination. But you're right that people always hesitate to share, and that's why we have to make sure that in that group people don't have that particular problem. But frankly speaking, in COVID, I have seen these particular lines are blurring,
Mm.
because now people are more human as compared to more cutthroat earlier,
Yeah.
and now they want to actually grow together and fight together rather than fight with each other.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I think everyone's more willing to help each other out nowadays. So very valid point, but I think it's also a good point you mentioned. As long as you don't, battle into the same market, I think it makes perfect sense. Another thing I want to circle back to, because I think it's extremely important, and I think in terms of like targeting, like you said, you need to be a bit more focused in terms of your audiences. When you talk about the go wide strategy, how important are internal champions? The reason I bring that up is because, like you said, you could go after in your marketing or sales this CMO, CFO, CEO, etc. But how does an internal champion, for example, if you are good friends or have a good relationship with the CIO, how is it important they refer you within the organization versus you reaching out directly to each of those different stakeholders?
A good point. So whenever any software or hardware sells, make sure that you should have a quantifiable benefit around it.
Mm.
Because if you're not able to quantify that in terms of numbers, people would not trust you, and number speaks by themselves. So when you are selling something to a CIO, come with a time frame. That okay, and make sure those are realistic commitments. It is not like something you're just taking it up. So you should know what your software or hardware can do. And for example, 3 months or 6 months timeline, make sure that your team is able to deliver that. And that depends on multiple team members. So one role is basically customer success.
Mm. Yeah.
Customer success manager role is very, very important because your salesperson is talking to 10 different customers at a same point of time because he's a salesperson and his job is to sell the software or hardware. But once it is being sold, who is taking care of the customer? That is your customer success person or the program manager or the solution architect. These guys should be thoroughly hand in glove with the customers at any given point of time.
Mm.
And for example, like customers should have the phone numbers or the contact numbers on their speed dial. And that relation should be so strong that customer always come to these people to ask, oh, what should I do, guys? I'm in this particular problem or situation. So that trust needs to build up. And within 6 months, we should be able to deliver what we committed for. Because once you deliver that, once they have seen the results, then you can scale your operations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why your CIO or that person will become the brand ambassador for you or the champion within the company. And when he or she wants to grow in that company, they want to tell others that, boss, see, I have done this innovation or the new project launch in my team, and I've got this particular results. Why don't you guys try? So this person will become the hero in the company.
Mm.
And that's why the hero, and when this person become hero due to the customer success, the partner success, or the architects, the entire credit goes to our team. So point number one, that whatever the commitment sales has given should be measurable and quantifiable.
Mm.
And we should have a solid team made of customer success or partner success or architects or program managers who are willing and who are ready to roll out that particular project in given timelines with proper benefits. So if that is possible, then this person will become your champion in the company and will definitely help it. And I've seen many examples where these people actually, because if you look at every person has a lot of aspirations also.
Mm.
And when these people work towards the aspirations, they need a lot of support. And when the partner, the software vendor, the hardware vendor can become that partner for that individual journey, that really helps. And that actually work in marketing also. For example, if I work with some agencies, and if those agencies help me to achieve my goals, definitely wherever I go, I remember those agencies and I maybe want to work with them again.
Mm.
So that always works well because you have to understand that what are you giving should be very much clear, very muchly written down. Okay, what will you get after so much of effort, so much of money?
Mm.
So that is very important. The communication is pretty important. Should be clear, concise, and pretty much quantifiable.
Once again, really, really good tips. I love the fact that you said to make your customer the hero. There's a couple different ways in which you talked about that. I think it's giving them the support, making them look good. One thing we've done in the past, and we've done with other clients, is to create these snazzy looking internal case studies that they can share internally. So it doesn't have anything with the partner's kind of logo or branding. It's essentially something that they could take and use and showcase internally. I think in addition to what you're saying about, obviously helping them achieve their KPIs, some little token that they can, use internally to make themselves look like a hero or kind of showcase their achievements. It's something we've done in the past that's been quite well received. I'm not sure if you've experienced anything like that before.
I'll give you some examples which I used to do in Wipro. So in Wipro, whenever we used to work with a lot of partners, whether it is IBM or Red Hat or TIPCO or Software AG, almost every quarter we used to have one day like IBM Day or Red Hat Day. And we used to call all the heads of different verticals in that one day. And it was session like start from 9 o'clock in the morning till 12:30, where the invite goes to all the team members of different verticals functions to attend that, because IBM or Red Hat, they're going to show that how they are helping different verticals. And at the end of the day, you distribute goodies, and also as a proper branding exercise, you brand the campus. And when people wear your t-shirt with your messaging and all, it is it is a good way to communicate people. But these type of activities will actually able to crack the ice between other departments and will able to help and scale that. So for example, when you said when you make your customer hero, give that customer as a keynote speech in that particular event within the company, and showcase what that team has done, and give a lot of accolades or prizes in that particular event to them, so that people should understand, oh, this relationship is going strong and has lot of actually a potential in future. And at the end of it, you should have a proper planning that, okay, what are the target accounts you have, how are target processes you have, how can you chart even the growth plan for that, and most important point, training. You should be able to tell your customer, how will I train your employees, what is the upskilling and cross skilling I am providing to your employees. Because
Mm,
at the end of the day, the employees are the asset of the company. If
mhm.
I am, as a company, as a partner of that, as a vendor of it, if I am able to help to the some training certifications to the employees, to really make their CV looking better, upskill and all, get them badges, that is really good. Because at the end of the day, customer also wants that their employees or team should grow faster than them.
It's a brilliant idea. If I heard that correctly, you said if you are a tech vendor, you would actually train your clients' employees. You mentioned certifications
Yes.
like that. Brilliant idea. I mean, I'm very passionate about training. I think it's a lot of what we do, but I think it's a really, really good way of thinking about it. And not only, like you said, I think just helping them as well. You talked about customer success, and this is a big gap that I see in a lot of tech companies. Is I've seen a mixed bag. I've seen some who are incredible customer success, who, like you said, have their client on speed dial. Anytime there's an issue, they're calling up their CS manager, whoever it is. And then I've seen others who kind of sell the deal, and then there's not as much support. So I think in those areas, that's when you see kind of the high churn and high kind of customers leaving to go to competitors. But I think it goes back to your point is the relationship doesn't stop after you made the sale. I think sounds like you place a lot of emphasis on that kind of post-sale relationship, whether it's training or education or even relationship building among your current clients, your prospects, even within their own organization. I think it's a really good point that I think a lot of tech companies, and not only tech companies, but non-tech companies should listen to. So really, really good tips.
I'll tell you a simple thing, Joe, that okay, a lot of companies have a lot of assets or portals or information, or I would say training materials, sales material, reports and all. The most important point is that how do you communicate that to your customer? How frequent do you communicate to your customer? Your customer should not tell us, oh, I have not heard from this company from last 2 months. There has to be proper communication, maybe through sales, maybe through marketing, maybe through from the top management to that particular customer. Maybe it is a weekly newsletter, or maybe it's a monthly newsletter. Maybe it is update about the trainings, update about the product, update about the new analyst reports. But customers should we feel connected always, and that's what I think the gap is becoming, that there's so much of communication customer gets, sometimes they are lost. And that's why your communication should be go back to the same point, like more driven by the persona, more driven by the vertical, more driven by the use cases. Because at the end of the day, if the customer is not able to read the first 2 lines of the email, he will not go further if it doesn't excite to him. And that's why the email marketing becomes very important. The subject line becomes very important of any communication. And it is a webinar, it is a blog, it is an analyst, anything. The first 5 seconds, if you're not able to click, then you're gone.
I'm smiling because I'm so excited you mentioned that, because this is the advice I was giving a very large tech company about an hour ago. We were talking about their email marketing, and one of the feedback I gave to them is that their current messaging right now is super generic, like it could apply to anyone within the organization. And as a result, I think they were quite unhappy with the results. But you're saying make it a bit more customized, whether it's by geography, whether by functional head or by vertical, such that you said within the first 5 seconds, they look at it and they say, okay, this is for me, or it's not for me. Either way, it's something that resonates with them. So I think that's a very, very good point that, it's a bit more time consuming, but I think it's worthwhile for a couple of different reasons. You talked about not only kind of, it could be for revenue generation if you're feeding into prospects, but also, like you said, it's something that you're communicating with your customers on a regular basis. Even if you don't have the, time as a CS manager or a salesperson to reach out to them every week, if you have a weekly newsletter, whatever it is that's relevant to them, I think it's a good way, as you mentioned, to stay top of mind so they don't forget about you. I think the moment they forget about you is the moment they start looking at different options. But if they have you on top of the mind, then they say, okay, I came up with this new project we want to roll out. Let's think about automation anywhere, because we get you guys a newsletter. You guys invite us to brown bag lunches. You invite us to do keynotes. So all of these ways are, I think, are a beautiful way of building that rapport with your clients.
And the communication does not stop at the customer level. Similarly, you would take care of your partners, because the partners also need a lot of updates from your side. Because remember, your partner is working with your competition also.
Yes.
And if your competition is more connected to your partner, you're losing your partner. And at the end of the day, all big companies are not made due to their own direct sales. The channels, the partners played a very, very big role in that, the entire expansion across the geographies. So your partner should also be updated about it. And third angle is analysts. Analysts from these big companies, because if you look at Gartner or Forrester or Everest, any big IDC, their analysts are talking to the CEOs of the world almost every week. And if the analyst is aware about what you guys are doing in the market, so analysts are always hungry about the case studies. They want to hear the stories. Okay, that, like, for example, XYZ bank has saved $40 million in 1 year, like that. Those numbers really impactful. So if you see, the content is say is with you, but the content towards the analyst is more case study driven, versus the content of towards partner is more use cases driven. So it is a box of, I would say, a lot of content pieces, but you have to make sure that which content will fit where.
That's such a good tip, and I think it's something that I haven't heard before. So I always love ideas that I hadn't heard of before. So that's definitely a first for me, is really building relationships with the analysts, not only your partners, your customers, but the analysts, because like you said, feeding them the right case studies, the right information. So hopefully they'll figure into the conversation as well. So really, really good points here. There's a couple other things that I want to touch on. I know you guys run your own weekly series, something similar to this. I'd love to find out more about that. You mentioned the coffee series.
Yeah, so we also no, because the when you approached to me that, okay, coverage Joe, so I said, wow, like similarly we have also something like that. And when we thought about it, actually it is always, you have to, we understand that the customer is busy in 100 different things. He has maximum 45 minutes to spend with you. What should go in those 45 minutes? Because in this virtual world, obviously the coffee is not there, but you have to brand like that, because it should be more a session, obviously not on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That has to be on Thursday. So the customer can be a little bit relaxed, versus when the Monday blues are there. So, and what customer wants to hear? They want to hear the stories. They want to hear what is changing in the market. So either you invite a partner there, you invite an analyst there, you invite a subject matter expert in those sessions, or you can make that session as a case study session. You can discuss one proper case study. But the objective of that session is that the content or the message should be useful to that particular customer. And that in virtual time actually can work well, because when you have 10 different people from 10 different countries, they can come on a one platform. But in the normal scenario, they cannot be in a one room.
Yeah.
So these type of things are pretty much helpful. And I would say not only this part of thing, because if you want to put, so again, I'll go with the same, go wide and go deep.
Yeah.
Either you can do a session with 10 different companies as a go wide, or you can do a session with your top one customer, two customer, invite their teams, which is go deep. So we can tell them, okay, invite these designations in this particular bank, like get all the senior vice presidents of particular functions from one bank XYZ. Or you can go to, okay, get 10 banks and get the 10 CFOs of it. So there are different methodologies. But remember one thing, that the entire soul of these type of activities is basically what you're talking to them. It should not be very salesy pitch. It should be more driven by the current scenarios. It should be more from the help perspective, like you can help customers in terms of your solutions, rather than telling customer to figure out what the solution can do.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. I think that was one of the rationales behind this, just educating the audience. One of the reasons we did this was because I felt there was a gap in terms of practical tips, particularly in Asia around marketing and sales. And so that's the reason why we started this series, was to provide that to folks in the community. And I think this is definitely going to be up there in terms of one of my favorite interviews I've done so far. So I've learned quite a lot already. I guess my last question is, How can people get in touch with you?
I'm very much active on LinkedIn. The people who are part of my network knows that I want to share a lot of information, because the one thing we should never stop that sharing the information with people.
Mm.
So I'm very much available on LinkedIn, and on the email ID is ankesh.sagar@gmail.com. Pretty simple.
There you go. Like I said, I'm definitely going to follow you more on LinkedIn now. I've been connected for a while, but this has been extremely insightful. Some very super practical tips, I think, not only for generating revenue, but a lot in terms of retaining and making, you know, your customers happy during these times. It'll definitely carry through once the COVID situation is over. So thank you so much, Ankesh. We really, really appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks a lot, Joe, for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. Have a nice day.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed today's show, please feel free to share it with anyone who might find it helpful. There's a lot of super practical tips in here. So hopefully you enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Take care.